suck. Yeah, struggle is real. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we're ready
Ready?
whenever you are.
Kevin, you
All right.
ready?
Yep.
All right, we are recording.
All right. 3, 2, 1. We are joined on the line now by a special guest. We got Colby Jacobino on the line. He's on Twitter at ColbyG33. He's a lead contributor for Hoops Habit and 1340 AM Fox Sports in Washington, D.C., and he's joining us to talk Wizards. Colby, thanks for joining us on the show.
Guys, thanks for having me. I enjoyed the show. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Oh, we appreciate you coming on, man. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk Wizards. You know, we're nearing the All-Star break. It's quietly creeping up on us, and you know, the Wizards we thought had higher. Well, I guess we should say we had high expectations for this team this year after the way they played in the playoffs last year, and you know, as we approach the All-Star break, they're 15-16. I guess what is the mood around Washington right now? How are Wizards fans feeling at this point?
I would say they're feeling really questionable, for lack of a better term, but it's really been an up and down season. You know, in the beginning, coming out of the gate, high expectations, like you said, got out. We couldn't extend Bradley Beal before the deadline, and he got out to a crazy start. I think through the first 5 games, he was averaging 25 points per game. He was a top 5 scorer. John Wall was doing, you know, what John Wall does. Top was playing solid, and it all looked well. All looked like it could be the team that everybody talked about competing with Cleveland for the Eastern Conference Championship. And then Bradley Beal gets hurt with a shoulder injury, keeps him out for a couple games. And ever since then, it's kind of, the train, you know, has been off the tracks. And it's been a lot of different factors, but it really started right when getting him back is going to be huge. Now, I don't expect him to play at the level that he did before because he didn't when he came back from the shoulder surgery, the shoulder injury. But it's really questionable right now. A lot of big expectations in 2016 to get this ship, you know, on the right wave and get in this playoff picture. Because without that, man, there's going to be riots in DC. It's not.
Well, you actually just mentioned my question that probably is my biggest question with the Wizards right now is Bradley Beal he seems to get some kind of injury every year, and we know he's in a contract year, and people are joking that, you know, there's a chance because of the way John Wall's contract's working out that he may end up getting paid more than John Wall for a little bit. And so do you see the Wizards offering him maybe a max contract, or are they going to try to figure out a way to, you know, keep it lower because of the injuries that he seems to sustain throughout the seasons?
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about that because I actually did a piece on that prior to the season that I got a lot of hate on for because I said you got to look at Bradley Beal's body of work. I mean, yes, when he's healthy, he has all the potential in the world, but he just seems to get injured every year. And now, currently, he's dealing with that stress fracture in his right leg that he was dealing with during his rookie season. So that keeps coming back and haunting him. But in my piece, I said, you know, I wouldn't give Bradley Beal a max. He's too much of a risk injury-wise. And with all the free agents and the salary cap coming out, we're going to have so much money to throw at people. Of course, I don't want to bring this up too early into the podcast, but the Kevin Durant talk, blah, blah, blah. But I really question whether or not they're going to do it. Now, if they get stuck in, you know, a little rut and other free agents either re-sign with their teams or start, you know, signing with other teams quickly, they're going to have to. I mean, you got to keep the guy around like that if you don't have any other choice. But the injuries are definitely something that the Wizards can have on their side to say, look, we don't have to throw all this money at you. You know, like you said, John Wall is going to get paid. I mean, the guy, a lot of people don't really notice him because the Wizards aren't on national TV a lot. But he's one of the best point guards in the game, hands down. The guy makes plays every time down the court. So it's definitely going to be an argument for the Wizards to put that against Bradley Beal to try to get him at a lower price. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I'm sure another team might throw a big number at him, but they definitely need to use that to their advantage.
Yeah, if you're looking at the cap situation going into the summer, the Wizards should have somewhere around $45 million in cap space available and 7 free agents leaving. So I feel like they do have enough to sign both Beal and Durant if they needed to do that, but the rest of the roster would be rather suspect to say the least. I mean, looking at Bradley Beal, and you mentioned how it's a stress fracture, it seems to me that it's a recurring injury with that stress fracture. Going back and looking at his minutes played so far from his rookie season on to now, and his rookie season was playing 31 minutes, and he's up to a career high at 36 and a half minutes. Because in my opinion, there's not the shooting guard is the shallowest position in the NBA. There's going to be a lot of teams with cap room this coming off season. Should the Wizards really consider limiting his minutes to somewhere around the 28 to 30 mark and then give him the max contract, or is that stress fracture too much of risk and there's nothing that limiting the minutes can do?
That's the big question right there is whether or not, because you say if they throw a max at Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, like you said, the rest of the roster is going to have to compose of ring chasing guys like a David West, what he did with Indiana, signing with San Antonio, and a lot of that. And it takes a certain somebody to do that. I mean, not everybody's going to leave $12-13 million on the table like David West did. And another thing that people aren't seeing, that people have their blinders on, especially here in DC, if Kevin Durant, comes here, yes, we'll be favorites on ESPN maybe, but it doesn't mean we're going to put together a championship right away. I mean, you saw what LeBron did at Miami. It took him a little bit. Everything takes time. So with these people that think that Kevin Durant's going to come here, first of all, which I don't believe that he's not, I don't find a reason why he should come here, honestly, right now. But, I just think that, with Beal, the limiting minutes, before the season, on media day, it was a huge thing. He wanted to be one of the leaders of this team, and he was actually challenging John Wall's statements during media day. He was saying he wants to be the guy to take big shots, when the time is running down. He wants his minutes increased. He wants to try to get to the free throw line more so he can average more points. He was saying all this stuff just straight out. So it'd be tough to give a guy a max and reduce his minutes because, you're kind of moving backwards in that. But I see what you're saying. It'd be more effective. But I'm going to go back to the Wizards need to use that as their advantage during contract talk to say, hey, look, you're not worth all this money because you only, you miss 20 to 30 games every year. You know what I mean? So that's gonna be the ultimate factor in that discussion. But I don't. To answer your question outright, I don't think you give a guy a max and then decrease his minutes. When you give a guy a max, he needs more responsibility. And that's the big question for Bradley Beal.
So let's talk a guy who is worth all the money, and that's John Wall. John Wall, last night, it was his 11th game this season with at least 20 points and 10 assists. That's second in the NBA behind Russell Westbrook, who's got 14. And there's no other player in the league that has more than 4 of those games. We know the NBA is, frankly, chock full of point guards right now. And so you got guys like Stephen Curry and Chris Paul, and you mentioned all these elite point guards. Where is John Wall, as a Wizards fan, do you think, in that conversation? Where does he rank on the power rankings of point guards, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, like you say, you got Chris Paul, you got Russell Westbrook. I know I'm missing one. You said somebody else? I know I'm missing
Steph Curry?
Somebody. Yeah, Steph Curry. And then I put him right behind that, along with when he's healthy, a Kyrie Irving. Like when he's healthy and at 100%, I believe John Wall and Kyrie. That's the big argument in DC. Comparing them to, that kind of. I don't want to say second tier because I don't want to downplay Wall's, play, but the guy. I mean, when you really sit down and watch a Wizards game, and like I said, they don't get a lot of national spotlight, so you really can't. People around the nation don't really know what he does for this team. He does everything for this team. I mean, like you said, it's been a routine thing for him to have 6 to 8 assists after the first quarter. I mean, that's just what he does. I mean, after the tip-off, you can guarantee he's going to get an assist on the first possession. So in comparison with those other point guards, I think if he was on a different team with more national spotlight, he would be right up there with those other names. Now, what separates them really is, of course, the scoring, the three-point shooting, really. And John Wall, he's been shooting a lot more of them this year. Not hitting at a great rate at 32.8%, but he definitely showed the ability that he can make that. But I think that's the one thing that separates, those top 3 point guards from him, is that when you're guarding him in the pick and roll, you can kind of let him, play around on the 3-point line. But the thing about it is he uses them so effectively that he attacks the big men right after, and that's what makes him and Gortat such an effective duo in the pick and roll.
Yeah, I was actually gonna. The thing I wanted to point out about John Wall is I've noticed kind of with Washington in general, other players once they're injured, they kind of take their time coming back. But it seems like Wall, when he gets injured, he'll come back probably sooner than he should, and he plays through the injury almost like last year when he hurt his wrist. Do you think? I mean, are the Wizards worried about that, or is that something that they've kind of just said, look, we need you out there, like you are our guy, you're going to have to play through these injuries?
That's the thing about Wall. That's another thing that separates him from the pack. He's hurt right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's told us, plenty of times after every game, I'm hurting. Just a whole bunch of different little nagging injuries, and he refuses to sit out. He says, look, this team needs me. I need to carry this team, and he knows that without him, they're going to be sinking. They're just keeping their head above water right now, especially in the tough Eastern Conference. They want to stay, they want to stay competitive until they get Beal, Nene. If Alan Anderson ever plays, we're missing 5 to 6 guys right now. Humphreys is beat up, so every night there's about 5 of them have been ruled out every night, and then I think it's Humphreys and Blair, who Blair doesn't really play a lot, but they've been dealing with some injuries that have keeping them questioned. So that's half of the roster's beaten up. But so Wall knows, look, if I sit out just to get some rest, it's gonna hurt this team tremendously. Now, you look at the long term of that decision. Hopefully, that doesn't come and bite us in the end if we do make the playoffs. But like you said, you can't overlook him getting injured versus Atlanta and breaking 5 bones in his hand, coming back and playing the way he did. That's something that's intangible that you can't teach. I'd say it's guys like him and Russell Westbrook that have a screw loose in their head that just want to get out there and just eat their opponent alive. That really separates them from the pack, and that's what makes John Wall such a special player.
Well, Colby, I'm glad you brought up the large amount of industry. 3, 2, 1. Colby, I'm glad you brought up all the injuries. Looking at that Wizards team, and I'm wondering what you think the rotation will shake out to once Beal, Neal, Anderson, and Nene return. And does that change the starting lineup? And if so, what do they do with Porter? Because the great thing about Porter is he's multi-positional.
Yeah, he's multi-positional. He's proven that. Like you guys said before, last year in the playoffs when they put Pierce at the stretch 4. But recently, with all these injuries, they've been experimenting with some lineups that have seen success. And during these injuries, Kelly Oubre, the rookie, he's gotten a lot of time, a lot of experience that's been great for him. That if those guys weren't hurt, he would just be riding the bench all year. And they've inputted a lineup. They've even gone as small as Oubre at the 3, Porter at the 4, and Dudley at the 5. And just ran with that, and they've seen success. Now you're not going to get that against, top elite teams of the NBA, but experimenting with those different lineups is a really good thing to do right now to figure that out for when these guys do come back. But a lot of this lineup, maybe if you have Gortat at the 5, Porter at the 4, and Oubre at the 3, has been intriguing a lot of people around DC, and with Neal coming back, he'll be coming off the bench once again. He's having a great season. That's a guy that's really underrated. Pretty much for his whole career. That guy he's scored really high basketball IQ. When Nene comes back, he needs to come back as soon as possible. He's dealing with that calf. Calves are really, really tricky. He just had an MRI on it, so it might be serious. But Gortat's just logging so many minutes right now, man. He's playing great too, but he's playing so many minutes. So the starting lineup, of course you put Beal back in there. You got to put him in there. But I just think it'll just make us stronger. I don't think it's gonna mess anything up because you still have Garrett Temple, who's also playing tremendous, and he'll be able to come off the bench. So you'll just go back to your Wall, Beal, Porter. That Dudley looks to see if he has cemented himself as the starting four, and then Gortat, which I think is a pretty solid lineup, and I think that's the lineup everybody envisioned before the season. It just took Dudley, a while to get off to a good start.
So a lot of this team's identity, going back to last year and their playoff runs, has been, the Wizards have been a defensive-oriented team, and this year, they're 23rd overall in points allowed. They're, bottom third of the NBA. Is it injuries, or is there deeper defensive issues with this team going forward?
It's definitely deeper defensive issues. Like you said, they were an elite defensive team last year. That's all they pride themselves on. They really didn't worry about the offensive end as much. They just allowed their defense to create for their offense. And this year it's totally different. Coming in, everybody wanted them to do the small ball and run and get out in transition. Well, that's all they focused on during training camp. I was there for that as well. And even some of the players afterwards, after a practice, would be like, we didn't really do a whole lot of defense today. And then as the season progressed early on, Wall came out and he said, I think the problem is we just haven't focused on defense enough. We've just been trying to get this transition, this small ball down, which takes a lot of time. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. You see teams doing it and being unsuccessful at it. But their offense has definitely improved. You see the points per game, you see the speed. When they're out and running in transition, there's not a lot of teams that can keep up with that. But the thing about it is they give up two on the extra end, on the other end every time, and it's hurting them. And now it's not because of the injuries. They were struggling on defense before the injuries. It was just because, I guess, the lack of focus defensively in practice. And when they keep their opponents under 100 points, they're most likely going to win that game. And they showed that this year. They played a tough Magic team the other night, held in the 91, and it was no problem for them. So but the problem, I was talking to Otto Porter after the Clippers game when they got blown out 108-91, and he said that the problem that they're having right now is that they're letting their offense dictate their defense instead of the other way around. If they're missing shots early, they start slacking on defense, and that hurts any team. So I think that's going to be the focus going forward in 2016 is to really tighten up defensively and hold these teams to under 100 points, and that'll give them a great chance to win, just like any other team.
Yeah, I mean, look at this team. They're fifth in pace. They're 3-2-1. So look at this team. They're fifth in pace. Their defensive rating's 106. Their offensive rating is 103. So that's not fantastic. And I like that you mentioned with the new small ball lineups. And not that I've necessarily been a Randy Whitman supporter. I know Kevin definitely last season was not. Said that their offense was a bit vanilla, but I think whatever works. And so it seemed like Randy Whitman was he let the pressure get to him this season, and he implemented this new faster offense and a lot more small ball like you've been mentioning. And I'm wondering if this season is so far the lack of winning is because of the injuries or is because of the new offense. And I guess why do people like or dislike Whitman so much?
Yeah, I mean the dislike of Whitman doesn't stop with Kevin or anything. It's everywhere. Nobody. He's such an old school guy, and the one thing I didn't understand was, now this is kind of not talking about the NBA at all, but we shot so many mid-range shots last year. And Randy Whitman's son, I think he played in JUCO, junior college, or the NAIA, and he was the leading three-point shooter for that respective league. So, that's just something little that I looked at and I was like, that's so weird to me that his father can be such a proponent of shooting mid-range shots. I think the Wizards are one of the top leagues last year shooting mid-range shots. And, while his son is out there leading the leagues in three-point shooting. That's really a little bit off the record type stuff. But I think it's just because he's stubborn. He's stuck in his ways and he's stubborn. But going back to the change of systems this season, if you didn't know the history behind Whitman and the history behind the small ball and changing to it, you would think he was just another coach that was a really big proponent and fan of it. Because during training camp, when the players, first day, when the players walked in, he had a whole bunch of seats and he had a TV. And he sat them down and he said, look, this is what we're going to do this season. We're going to run. We're going to run. And, you know, he had a whole bunch of examples from the Toronto series, from the Atlanta series, trying to get them to see, like, look, this is when we're most successful. We're going to do this. We're going to commit to it. He had boxes all around the court for his stretch forwards. He said, this is where I want you to end up instead of, you know, cutting to the basket like they did in transition last season. And he just kept pounding them with it. So that's the stuff that people don't see with Whitman. But if you watch his press conferences after a loss, you know, after maybe a disappointing loss, he really is. He's really, I can't think of the word right now. But he's really harsh on his players. And Gortat has even came out and kind of spoken up to him, and a couple players have. Like, you can't, even though you lose a disappointing game, you can't throw your players out like that. There's different ways to do it. And Gortat kind of said, like, look, if he wants to say that to me, I'll go in his office. You don't have to say that out to the media. That's just stuff that starts unneeded fire, you know. But going into this season, he had to make the switch. His seat is heating up. It's still hot. If he doesn't perform this year, you know, I'm not sure that he's back next year. We can't. Everybody's calling for a mid-season firing, but you know, people like to pull that trigger too early. Who else are we going to get right now? You know, no other assistant coach on the bench has had any head coaching experience, so that's not a good move. But we'll see, man. It seems like his seat is hot every year, and then when the playoffs come around, he, you know, figures something out, and it makes him safe for the next season. So it's going to be interesting how all that, you know, winds down. But I don't think Whitman's back on the bench next year, honestly.
One of my favorite things to do to get into like the mind of, you know, a specific team's fan, because I don't get to, like you were saying, you know, we don't get to see the Wizards play that often, is I love going on to like Reddit and just seeing the threads and the comments that they're making. A lot of them are about Whitman and how they want him fired. But another one that I thought was actually pretty funny, I was reading up on it last night and it was giving me a good laugh, was they literally titled this the Jarrell Eddie overreaction thread. And they're talking about how this guy is the next, you know, all-star and stuff like that. How does it? I know he had a really good first game and, you know, came out and got everybody excited. But what are the I guess what's the normal or what should the reaction be to him?
I mean, the normal reaction is, you know, from an analyst standpoint, you know, he's a guy coming from the D League. He proved that he could shoot the D League. He shot 52% behind the arc. So you knew that coming in. Mm-hmm. He's not a guy who's just strictly a shooter. You know, when he's out on the floor, he can get up, get above the rim. But he came in at the perfect time for a D League player to come in with a battered roster. And when he came into Brooklyn, and I think it was a pretty tight game, and he came in and went 4 for 5 from 3, and everybody was just like, "Whoa, like what's going on?" And it's not the type where it's not the type of shot where, oh, he's just feeling it today. Like, you can just tell by, you know, his stroke and everything that he's just a pure shooter. Mm-hmm. But as the games have gone on, you've seen that D League come out in him. You've seen him struggle with defensive rotations. You've seen him miss passes in the offense just because the speed of the game is a totally different level from the D League. Mm-hmm. I think we could keep him. I think we should definitely keep him, because you can never have too many shooters. And it's not like like I said, it's not like he's a guy who can't defend. He's a good on-ball defender. He's just got to get the rotations down, help defense, just little stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of fans, I mean, I see it in Wizards fans, but a lot of fans like to just, you know, jump on that wagon of, oh my God, this guy could be the next, you know, Reggie Miller, because he went 4 for 5 one time, and he went 2 for 7 against the Clippers. So, you know, he is human. It's not like he's going to go out there and hit 4 threes every game. And, you know, he's playing limited minutes. So, obviously, he's not – I don't think Whitman is that stupid to keep an all-star caliber player sitting on the bench. But I definitely think he could be a contributor. It's going to be interesting when that January 8th date comes up to see if we re-sign him. But I think we will. I think he'd be a good contributor for his team, and I think we need somebody like him, especially during the season.
I guess the other question I have, and this is going back to the Reddit threads, a lot of people are talking, and you brought it up already a little bit, is about the moves for trying to intrigue Kevin Durant to come back home, all that stuff. A lot of the talks were talking about trying to make trades with the Sixers and the Blazers, but the another one I saw is, and I know the Bulls are talking about that, they said Taj Gibson is up for trade. They were saying, what if they tried to do a Dudley and Temple for Taj trade to kind of give Kevin Durant that, hey, look, we're building a team ready for you. These guys are ready when you want to come.
I wouldn't do that.
No.
Right off the bat, I wouldn't do that deal because Temple, like I said, he's playing great. Dudley's finally starting to come around. I mean, he had the back surgery a lot, so we kind of expected that in the early parts of the season he was gonna come off slow. But I think right now, from the Wizards' standpoint, you have to win as many games as you possibly can in order to intrigue Kevin Durant to come home. And I don't think trading away Temple and Dudley after what they're doing right now for Taj Gibson, who's a great player and who could help the Wizards out, but I don't think that's going to translate into more wins. I mean, before this season, I said, my belief was they had to at least go to the Eastern Conference Finals and be very competitive, and go to a Game 7, or perhaps go to the finals, which is years away. I understand, but I mean, if you're Kevin Durant, you're on a team. Yes, you're in the West, but you're on a team that has a chance to go to the finals each and every year. Why would you leave that? What's your reasoning for that? A lot of people say to come home. Yeah, well, coming home comes with a lot of extra baggage that people don't think of. You come home, all your homeboys are. There's a lot of distractions. He's out in Oklahoma City where he can just focus on basketball, and that's what kind of guy Kevin Durant is. He's a very low key type of guy, focusing on one thing at a time. He doesn't want all that other distraction with it. So I think that's just the Wizards fans, like I said again, putting on the blinders. But I just don't see. They need to make a move to get wins now. They don't have to make a move to try to intrigue Kevin Durant to come, because the only way he's going to come is if they're competitive and have a chance of winning the finals that next season.
So looking at the Wizards interior, you've got Marcin Gortat, you've got Nene. These are two guys who, Gortat's 31 years old, Nene's 33 years old, and there's roughly $24 million tied up into these two players. I guess, how much do you worry about those contracts over the next few years, and how productive do you think these guys can be as they continue to push into their 30s?
Well, Nene is another one like Bradley Beal, but I would say worse than Bradley Beal in terms of getting hurt. I mean, it just seems like he's always dealing with an injury, and that's not, to blame him or anything. That's just, he's a big guy. He's always battling. He's one of the most physical bigs in the league, so that's going to come with the territory. But it's just these little nagging injuries that keep, messing him up. So I think we need to do away with that as soon as possible. If we could do a mid-season trade and somebody would take his contract right now, I would say, you need to take that immediately. But with Gortat, from my point of view, I'm fine with him. A lot of people don't like him because he block a shot into the seventh row, or be catching all the alley-oops, but he's one of the most efficient bigs in the league. And if you've watched the Wizards and seen John Wall and him in the duo of pick and rolls, I mean, last season they were right up there with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. So I mean that puts them, that gives you a little bit more perspective. This season they're not as good, but that has to go with a lot with the space offense that they're doing. But everything revolves around Wall and the ball screen, and Gortat's one of the best ball setting, screen setting big men in the league. Now, if you can get somebody better than him, of course you do that. But right now with Gortat, I'm fine with him. He's a walking double-double. He's out there, controlling the rebound, especially with Nene out. Like I said, I've been nothing but praising Gortat because, he's logging 38, 40 minutes a game every night and giving 110% effort. So fine with Gortat. let's do away with Nene. Let's get some, maybe a younger guy in here or just a proven guy to help, bolster our chances of making this playoff run. It's going to be tough in a tough Eastern Conference.
Well, Colby, I'm glad you brought that up with Gortat. I've always been a huge proponent of him, and like you mentioned, he's probably the best screen-setting big in the NBA, and he's just really efficient. He's like Zaza Pachulia, and you're right, it's not highlight reel stuff, but he does everything that he needs to do. He sets those hard screens. He rolls to the basket well. He has gummies for hands, but apart from that, he's really good. He boxes out well. I'm a huge Gortat guy. I guess the last question, because we've taken up enough of your time today, is so Otto Porter. He struggled to start the season. There were a lot of high hopes for him given his successful playoff runs, but given his recent stretch of 20-plus point games and the fact that the Wizards have won 4 straight, is this sustainable? And what have you seen since he's come back from injury that has really changed his game and brought it to the playoff success that he was having in prior postseasons?
Yeah, well, like you said, the talk around media day was, is Otto going to be able to step up and replace Pierce? Pierce did so much for this team, and with Porter finally coming on at the end of last season, that was all credited to Pierce and just being in his ear and giving him that confidence that he needed to believe that he belongs out on an NBA floor. I mean, a third overall pick, you expect a lot more than what Porter was doing. He was on the verge of being called a bust because he just was not performing at all. But this season, he comes out, starts a little bit slow, which was disappointing. But, he recently got over a thigh injury, and now he's just been on a tear. And, like I said the other night after the Clippers game, I was talking to him, and he said that he's still a little bit out of shape, but I didn't notice it because I was telling him, like, you're playing better than you were before the injury. Like what happened? Maybe take another couple games off and come back again. But no, he's been doing great. He's I like to call him like the Swiss Army knife. He does everything, man. I mean, he rebounds. He's been dishing out assists. He's been scoring. He's been a great mid-range shooter, and also he's extended his range out. He's always one of the last guys in the gym after practice. He's always one of the last guys in the gym just shooting threes because, I mean, you have to be if you're an offensive John Wall. You're going to get tons of open looks from beyond the arc. So he's done a great job stepping up. I think it'll only carry over as the season goes on. And, the injuries, you look at it as a blessing in disguise. Like you said, Oubre, he's gotten tons of minutes. So maybe, when everybody comes back, Porter doesn't have to log those crazy minutes that he was in the beginning of the season. They can put Oubre in for a little bit so you can keep Otto more fresh. And I think that'll benefit the Wizards a lot heading on, later into the season. But it's really a wait and see type thing. He's got a great head on him. He knows what he has to do. He knows his role on the team. So now it's just him going out and performing each and every night. He's done that, like you said, ever since he's gotten back from the injury.
Well, for the sake of my fantasy team, I really hope they keep those minutes up.
But again, you've been listening to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Kevin Rayviews, Tim Tompkins, Justin Kuzar. We've been talking to Colby Jacobina. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at ColbyG33. Again, he's a contributor for Hoops Habit and for 1340 AM Fox Sports in Washington, D.C. Make sure you check his stuff out there. Colby, thanks for joining us today, man. We appreciate you.
Guys, thanks a lot for having me. Love the show. Always, telling everybody about it. You do a great job on here.
Oh, thank you.
As the season progresses, if you guys ever need, if something ever goes down with the Wizards, Kevin Durant talk in the summer, let me know let me know out there.
I'm sure we'll be.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll be
in
definitely.
touch soon.
Recording now. So Colby, I don't know if we're gonna release this episode this Wednesday or next Wednesday. But as soon as we do, we just got to figure out. We have another interview scheduled after this, so we got to figure out which one is less timely, I guess you would say. And I feel like what we were talking about now, like apart from maybe a couple of questions, I feel like it was all fairly non-timely. But regardless, I'm kind of jabbering on now. So as soon as we post it, though, we'll hit you up with the link, man.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I enjoy being on here, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Listen to your guys' show every time. You guys release one. So just keep up the great work.
Thanks, man. We will, and we'll definitely hit you up when those Durant talks get even crazier. I'm sure.
Hey, yeah, definitely. And And be sure to do that Reddit research. That stuff's crazy on there. Man. I try to stay away from that.
It's a zoo, man.
It really
you get
is.
some great stuff on there, but you get some wild stuff on there too. It's
Man,
definitely no holds barred.
The most extreme guy. I mean, there's like it seems like the guys who start them are the guys who are burning LeBron's jersey. Yeah.
They're all about being negative. Sometimes we'll post episodes. Like I'm sure, like when we post yours, I'll post it to the Wizards Reddit because that people like to see that. But I forget when we did. We posted one to, I think it was the Celtics or something, and they just, wow, they were not happy with us. They were not.
Right before you guys let me go, Tim, I want to say, what in the hell happened to the Suns last night?
Oh.
I mean, I watched part of the game. I didn't watch the first half because I was out on a date, but I watched the second half when I got back this morning.
You should have stayed out on that date.
Well, I know. I mean, Tyson Chandler got taken out. Both Tyson and Alex Len were in foul trouble to start the game. Once they got taken out, I mean, the Kings just went on a run. I think they scored 60 points in the paint compared to 32 by the Suns in the paint. They had like a 42-point third quarter. And by the time that third quarter was done, like the Suns were down by 20. I mean, they just Mirza Teletovic isn't a center. And you can't put Teletovic up against Kosta Koufos and hope for any sort of defense. And once they were down by about 15, Jeff Hornacek, he didn't put back in PJ Tucker. He kept the young guns out there, kept TJ Warren out there, Devin Booker. He put in Archie Goodwin and Sonny Weems. He kept John Lure out for a while. So it seemed like he knew the game was over, and they just decided, let's lose this game, because every Suns loss is a Suns win at this point.
Right. I know you guys got to start tanking. And then one more other thing, because I love him. I talked to him during media day. He's one of the coolest guys I've ever talked to. Ish Smith making stuff happen in Philly.
Oh, man.
Oh, come on.
Release the Ish.
Release the Ish is a thing, man.
I didn't want to bring it up during the show because I remember y'all said you're not trying to talk Sixers for like another 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But, man, I had to bring it up. Ish Smith is making things happen. I'm happy for him, man.
No, man, he's single-handedly revitalized Nerlens Noel's season this year. Like, Nerlens finally has someone that can get him the ball where he needs to get it, and I'm hoping he kind of has the same effect on Okafor. But, we'll see. Release the Ish is a thing, though.
And I can't, and dude, every time, I hate when they send me those little vines out of Embiid shooting threes. But the guy's got to get on the court.
Dude, I watched him. I watched him warm up, and it's just like it's so frustrating because if he plays, it's going to be unstoppable. I've seen this movie too many times, and I don't want to just Joel Embiid is a pure luxury to me at this point. Like if he plays, I think he's going to be fantastic, but I'm just treating the team as if they're moving forward without him.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this real quick. If he does come back and he's a special player. Who do you give up? You get when you have to. You have to trade.
Oh, it's
Okafor.
I think it's Okafor. Yeah.
I think Embiid can kind of play the 4 a little bit and almost be like a Chris Bosh type. I think eventually because he can hit the 3 ball and he has a consistent jump shot. Where Okafor is just such a liability on defense, and with Nerlens Noel, Nerlens at the 5, I just think has so much athleticism, and I think he can run, and I think he's never going to have a jump shot, but I think he can be one of those guys who can get 16 points a game just off lobs. And I think Okafor's defense and just the way of what they want to run, I think he's the most expendable if Embiid is healthy in the long term. But that's such a big if. But yeah, I think you can find Jalil's offense somewhere. You can't find Nerlens' defense somewhere.
Well, if you guys land Ben Simmons,
could you?
And
could you imagine a lineup of what were we saying? Embiid, Simmons, Okafor, and Saric.
Yeah, that would be the biggest lineup in the NBA.
Did you guys see Simmons last night by any chance?
I heard he had
36 and 14.
he had 19 points at one
No, that's
point.
not. I mean, you see me play street ball though.
I mean,
Yeah, I would want you on the Sixers because we're tanking.
yeah. Well, the thing about it is though, when the other team's getting pressured, they go to him. They don't go to a point guard. He comes to the ball to dribble. It's pretty disgusting. But I love watching.
It's crazy, but thank you again, man, for coming on. I'm sure we'll be in touch, and we'll definitely get you back on here for sure.
Yeah, man, definitely. Once again, guys, thanks for having me. Keep up the great work, and I'll be listening.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Have a good one, fellas.
All right, I gotta go get water. Boy's thirsty.
I think you just pull it down.
This is what we want to just